The 2022 Jacksonville Jaguars kick off their regular season with an out-of-conference matchup. And to be honest, these matchups have not fared well for the Jaguars. The Jaguars have not beaten an NFC team since 2018. It seems like forever ago. We were still kind of riding the high of the 2017 season at that time. But it's an entirely new Jaguars team, and they're facing the newly named Washington Commanders. Trevor Lawrence, he's going to be facing an intense front seven from this Washington Commanders team. Yes, they're going to be missing star pass rusher Chase Young, and honestly, I'm happy they're going to be missing him. I hate to see that he's injured, but I'm very happy the Jaguars do not have to deal with that headache of a game plan dealing with him. Now, the loss of Chase Young will obviously be noticeable, but the Commanders still have Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen. These are guys that were very good pass rushers in 2021. Montez Sweat had 5 sacks in his, I think it was like 10 games he played in 2021. Jonathan Allen, as a defensive lineman, had 9 sacks. I do think these two are going to be able to get some good pressure on Trevor Lawrence. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm saying it as a realistic thing. They're going up against Ben Bartch, who is still, if you're grading guards, you're saying he's in the lower tiers of guards currently in the NFL. Luke Fortner's a rookie. We've yet to see what he looks like. And then obviously you have Brandon Scherff. So I'm concerned with the left side of the line. Obviously Scherff can hold his own, but I do think they're going to kind of try to work Allen into matchups against Ben Bartch, against Luke Fortner, to see what those two have. Not only does Trevor Lawrence have to be concerned with the pass rush coming towards him, he also has to be a little bit concerned about this Commanders secondary. Kendall Fuller is a very good corner in the league. Bobby McCain is a very good safety in the league. And it's really going to be up to these wide receivers, to the tight ends, to everyone making good plays, running good routes, and then also coming down with the catch. We know Trevor Lawrence has the accuracy to get the ball where it needs to go. And now to the running backs, Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne is going to be seeing his first regular season snaps in a Jaguar uniform since suffering his Liz Frank injury in last year's preseason. In order for the Jaguars to have success on offense in this game, and honestly for the entire season, Travis Etienne needs to reach his expectations and even surpass some of the expectations. I talked about in a previous video, his betting line for all-purpose yards was just over 1,000 yards. He needs to far surpass that kind of number in order for the Jaguars to have a successful season, and in order for the Jaguars to leave DC 1-0, Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne need to be having a good connection going all game, out of the backfield, in the handoff game. Really get him going early and see what he can do against this Commanders front seven. But it's James Robinson. James Robinson had a Cam Akers-style return off of the Achilles tear, and honestly, he's been an exceptional runner for the Jaguars in years past. You're talking about a guy that was a 4.5-yard rusher as a rookie, and then a guy that was a 4.7 yards per carry rusher in 2021 despite the limited carries. Now, James Robinson, like Etienne, has not taken live serious snaps in a long time. Thankfully, it's not as long as Etienne has been out, but still, you're talking about a guy that hasn't played since week 15, didn't get any touches in the preseason. Both of these guys are very, very cherry new to this 2022 season. They haven't been hit a whole bunch. Obviously, Etienne does have the preseason snaps, thankfully, but Coach Pederson said he is good to go, and we will see it. And we'll see playing time on Sunday. So I'm really interested to see what the carry split between the two looks like and what the workload looks like for Robinson early and then as a whole throughout the game. I'm very excited to see what this running back duo does, because it's been a very, very talked about thing between, can they mimic what the Saints had with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara? And then obviously, does Snoop Conner play any bit of a role? Obviously, the 5th-round rookie with the return of James Robinson. Do we see a lot of Snoop Conner? That's still up in the air. He kind of just seemed like an insurance policy for James Robinson, but at the end of the day, all questions will be answered on Sunday. So it's just up in the air, and it's all speculation until kickoff at 1 o'clock in the nation's capital. And now for the tight ends, Evan Ingram is going to be facing a defense he's probably very familiar with. Jack Del Rio is the defensive coordinator for the Commanders, and Evan was familiar with them in all aspects of their name, and he's also very familiar with defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio's scheme. So that's a huge benefit for Evan Ingram. The Jaguars do seem to have a nice set of play designs for Ingram, and it's going to be great to see how the almost tight end-centric Doug Pederson offense uses him. What kind of schemes do they have? Do we see 2 tight end sets? Do we even see 3 tight end sets where they throw out Chris Manhertz, Luke Farrell in? Where do these guys line up? How do they look? What kind of play designs are there for them? And Dan Arnold is probably just going to be a consistent player. If he leaves Washington with a stat line of 3 to 4 catches, 250, or not 250, it would be amazing, Dale. 3-4 catches. 25 yards to 40 yards, somewhere in there. I think it's absolutely going to be considered a success when you look at the fact that Ingram's probably going to get a bunch of the targets, and then you're looking at the fifth-year tight end who's seen 86 catches in his entire pro career. Obviously, he did show that he could probably take a bit of more of a workload last year prior to the injury, but now that you have Evan Ingram, I think he absolutely is the focal point of the tight ends, and he's going to get a lot of the tight end targets. So Dan Arnold's probably going to have a smaller role. He's not going to be the tight end that a lot of Jaguar fans were hoping he's going to be, but Evan Ingram is poised to have a very good game up here in DC in week 1. And now for the wide receivers. This newly assembled wide receiver room should be able to have some success against as a whole, underwhelming secondary, outside of Kendall Fuller and Bobby McCain, like I previously talked about. Throughout the preseason, the Jaguars were able to make a lot of separation, and they were also able to bring in the passes they needed to make. Trevor Lawrence kind of had to put the ball in some spots where the receiver kind of had to make a bit of a play, whether it be an extended catch, whether it be, a diving catch, or maybe just a back shoulder catch. Trevor Lawrence put it in the place that he needed to have a good catch come in, and the receivers made the play. So it's on the receivers just as much as it is Trevor to make that connection work. But I do think one of the bigger question marks about this wide receiver room is not as a whole. I think it really is kind of going to get homed in on Christian Kirk. Where do they line Christian Kirk up? Where do they see Christian Kirk being the most beneficial for this Jaguars offense? I've talked a lot about how are they going to just square block and just circle hole Christian Kirk and make him a outside wide receiver. Where are they going to put Christian Kirk as a whole? Then there's not only that. What is the target spread going to look like between the top 4 wide receivers for the Jaguars? Obviously, Tim Jones has kind of crept up a bit now that they're carrying the number that they are. Is Tim Jones going to be a regular on the field? Is he going to kind of share time with Marvin Jones? Where do they see that target share going? How do they design plays for them? Things of that nature. I'm very excited to see what this Jaguars offensive scheme looks like as a whole. I'm very excited to see what kind of things Doug Pederson and Press Taylor are able to draw up with the amount of perceived talent and definitely speed that is on this Jaguars offense that has been lacking for a long time. Now, this Jaguars offensive line, I think, is one of the groups that has the most questions surrounding it. How does Cam Robinson play now that he's gotten the big money contract? Obviously, he was franchise tagged last year. He was on his rookie contract prior to that. How does he look? Does he take that next step? Is he a veteran lineman that the Jaguars can rely on? And then I've already talked about these two, Luke Fortner, Ben Barch, playing in their new roles in the Jaguars offense. Obviously, Barch was playing right guard in 2021 for the Jaguars, and Fortner being the newly drafted third-round rookie from Kentucky as the center. What do these two on the interior look like? Obviously, Fortner has looked very good in the preseason and in camp. Trevor Lawrence has gushed about him. As a whole, how does this unit look together on the interior? Because Brandon Scherff is going up against one of the better interior defensive linemen in the National Football League in Josh Allen. Who ends up winning that battle? It's going to be a battle of just two longhorn steer bucking heads. I know those two don't do it. It's not a good analogy, but hey, you come here for the football analysis, not my animal analogies. And then the biggest question of them all really is the battle of the offseason is over and the winner has been crowned. It's Jawan Taylor. How does he look in that role? And I think he did win the battle for a couple different reasons. You're talking about a guy who is not only in a contract year, so he has something to play for, might be a little bit of an edge in his favor, and he also has an insane amount of starting reps at the position. You're talking about a guy in Jawan Taylor who was drafted as a right tackle to play right tackle, opposed to Walker Little, who was a left tackle, who then Cam Robinson got paid, so it's like, okay, well now we have to try Walker at the right tackle spot. I think it's a massive different disparity in knowledge of the skill set to play the position. And now this defensive line, this defensive line is a group that has a bunch of diverse talent around in the position groupings. You're talking about guys that can play big end and nose tackle. You're talking about guys that can play big end and outside linebacker. There's a bunch of different combinations these Jaguars can be played in, and I think Mike Caldwell and Brenston Buckner are going to have a great time playing with the different combinations. I think they have so far. I think we've seen some really good combinations in the preseason, and we all know they're not going to show what they have in the preseason. So for the fact that we're seeing these great combinations now, I can only imagine what kind of sets we're going to see this Jaguars defense in as we get into the thick of the season, as we play these really diverse offenses like the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Broncos. Where are we going to see these guys lining up? I'm very, very excited to see that. But you're talking about Foley Fatukasi. He might be one of the most important Jaguars on the defensive line. You're talking about the guy that can play nose tackle. That's what a lot of people thought he was going to be put in. And then he can also play big end, but he's just such a good run-stuffing defensive lineman that I think that's a huge benefit. And then you're talking about guys that are actually the real chunk of the iceberg here. Fatukasi is just the tip. But then you've got Roy Robertson Harris, Dewan Smoot, Arden Key, all guys that are able to get good interior pass rush from that defensive line, and then you freeze up Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen to be outside linebackers, and they can just go get them just as much. So I say all this, but do not forget the Washington Commanders have a very, very talented offensive line. Both tackles, Samuel Cosby and then Charles Leno Jr. Very good tackles, very good, very talented tackles in the National Football League. Then you're talking about the interior of this offensive line. Guard Wes Schweitzer. Then you have Chase Roulier at the center position. And then obviously everyone is very familiar with Andrew Norwell and what he did in Jacksonville. Now this is a very tough task to give this Jaguars defensive line, but I do think if they have success early, the snowball could pick up speed and they could be in for a very good day against this Washington Commanders offense. Now, for the linebackers were upgraded and upgraded and upgraded and upgraded, it felt, in 2022, and that cannot be understated. They needed pass rush help, so where'd they go? They went and got Trayvon Walker, and that adds to the litany of pass rushers I talked about in the interior of the defensive line. And they have all of these great pass rushers that they can use now, and you talk about that's only the tip of the iceberg. Now we get into the meat of the iceberg. They had Foye Oluokun, who I've said a time and time again, 7th all-time in NFL history for single-season combined tackles, 192 combined tackles in 2021. But they didn't stop there. They went and got Devin Lloyd, one of the best linebackers in the 2022 draft. But they didn't stop there. They said, we're taking best player available in this draft, and you cannot stop us. And then went and took Chad Muma in the 3rd round with the 70th overall pick after they've already added so many defensive players. You're talking about 3 of the 4 first picks they made in the draft being linebackers. Trayvon Walker, Devin Lloyd, Chad Muma. The linebackers better be unstoppable this year for how much they've added, and I think there's a good chance they will be. You talk about the athleticism being top-notch and their perceived communication ability. People have gushed about Foyer's ability to be an on-field general, and then Chad Muma has been very comfortable, it seems, on the field with the green dot in his helmet once Foye Oluokun has left the field. So overall, these linebackers are in great shape, and I do think they're going to be able to create a lot of noise against a Carson Wentz-led offense. This group of linebackers is going to be facing a good group of linemen, like I previously mentioned, but they're also going to be contending with Carson Wentz. He's a mobile quarterback, and they're going to be facing Antonio Gibson, who had a 1,000-yard season last year, and he's had back-to-back 1,000-yard all-purpose seasons. So Antonio Gibson is a good running back, and Carson Wentz is a good quarterback in the pocket. Obviously, they did get to him a bunch last year in Week 18 in Jacksonville, but still, you're talking about an offensive line that is perceived to be one of the best in the National Football League, a mobile quarterback, a 1,000-yard rusher, and then you also have the weapons on the outside, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, which we will get to here now with the defensive backs. Obviously, we're expecting to have a good leap in talent and production from these cornerbacks and from these defensive backs as a whole. Obviously, we didn't get to see what Andre Sisco was last year. Tyson Campbell turned the burners up to 1 million and is cooking with Crisco now here in Jacksonville. He's looking like he's a potential all-pro candidate here in 2022. Obviously, they upgraded the nickel. They go and get Darius Williams from the Super Bowl winning Los Angeles Rams. And then, obviously, Shaq Griffin has been a Pro Bowler in his career. And then Rayshon Jenkins is hopefully going to be a serviceable, strong safety for this Jaguars secondary. Carson Wentz has 1,000 different weapons it seems to throw to. I've already said them. Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, then the committee of tight ends that they're going to have, and then Antonio Gibson as well, potentially. There's a bunch of talent for Carson Wentz to play with, and I think the Jaguars are going to have a lot to compete with as a whole in this Commanders offense. They're not to be understated about how many weapons they have here and how much talent is across that 11-man front that they're going to be looking at. But I think the Jaguars are as fast as they are, and I think there potentially is enough talent on this Jaguars defense to contend with this Commanders offense. So it should be an absolutely great matchup, this Commanders offense versus this Jaguars defense. And now on to everyone's favorite side of the field, the special teams. Riley Patterson is the 6th kicker in this Jaguars kicking carousel, and hopefully the Jaguars have settled on their final one. It seems clear whenever the Jaguars jettisoned every single kicker on the roster to pick up Patterson that they had been watching him, and they kind of had their fingers crossed, hoping that he would get cut. And let's just hope they made the right decision this time. We're getting to the point of the season where the kicks matter. We can't go out there and be missing kicks like we were in the preseason. The only thing more infuriating for me than dropped passes is missed extra points and gimme field goals. You cannot miss those, and you can't leave points on the board. That's just at the bare bones what it comes down to. It's hard to score in this league, and when you get opportunity to put points on the board, you need to capitalize on them. Now, For my game prediction, I do think this game has a 2017 opener feel to it. But people in Jacksonville are aware of how much talent is on this team, but it does not seem like they are nationally aware of it. A lot of the people are still predicting the Jaguars to be a 4 to 5 win team and just kind of pedestrian muddling through, hey, with the 5th overall pick, the Jaguars select. I think this team has the ability to get white hot at a certain point in the year and really just ride the momentum like the 2017 team did. But this game has upset written all over it for me. I do think the Jaguars steal a game early against the Washington Commanders. It's somewhere probably in the 24 to 20 range. Either way, Jags cover. That line is slowly creeping down. I think it opened at 3.5. It's currently at 2.5 here on Thursday. So with that being said, I do think the Jaguars come out of DC with the win, 24 to 20. Thank you guys so much for watching. Drop your score predictions down in the comment section below. I love to have that conversation with you guys about where your head's at with the game. Thank you guys so much for watching again. Stay safe and go Jaguars.
How about them Jags?
Come on, Joe! Ah! Thank you, baby! Thank you! You making blood come from my damn mouth!